If you've ever gone and tried to implement analytics at a customer site, you've probably run into some difficulty. I'm here to tell you that implementing analytics does not have to be difficult if you do a couple things before you go to implement the analytics. Hi, my name is Phil Zito. I'm the founder and CEO of Building Automation Monthly, where we help companies to assess their existing employees so that they can then create customized training plans to develop those employees to execute backlog and increase margin per employee. All right, so you're looking at analytics and you finally sold them. You've got a customer to buy in on the idea that they need analytics, which is a good thing. In and of themselves, analytics do deliver value as long as you can take action on the results. But where a lot of analytics projects tend to go wrong are on the implementation side. So tip number one for effectively implementing analytics is to really decide on the use cases for the analytics before you ever even sell the project. So for example, if you want to use analytics to determine, let's take something super simple, right? Simultaneous heating and cooling, wasting BTUs within a building. If you want to determine that, right, and you want to determine where simultaneous heating and cooling is occurring across a campus, then you already know there's a specific set of points I need to monitor. And by defining that use case up front, you can determine, oh man, at all these controllers, they're pneumatic valves and we didn't account for that. So we're going to have E to Ps on all these pneumatic valves to make sure that we can pull them in and control them with this new DDC system that, oh, by the way, we didn't know we had to have a DDC system. Yeah, there's a little bit of an extreme case, but this is where a lot of analytics go wrong is with tip number one. They don't define the use case up front, and because they don't do that, then they aren't accounting for, they being the salesperson and the operational team that have to execute this, they aren't accounting for what actually has to take place. All right, tip number two is making sure that there's some form of data standard. There's nothing worse than finally pulling in multiple systems into an analytics solution only to find that something's called zone temp, something's called space temp, something is called room temp, something is just some random mechanical drawing number. It's not even a room or a space. We have no idea. The space temps don't align with the mechanical drawings, the room numbers don't align with the mechanical drawings. All this data mismatch, right? I'm jarbled just talking about it. And this is what is actually happening when you're going to implement, is because there's no thought around the data model, around how we're going to effectively utilize naming and tagging, which we'll talk about in just a second, on our analytics projects. We can't deliver our use cases because even though we can get the data now, the data doesn't make any sense. Number three is, if possible, to utilize some form of kind of taxonomy, for lack of a better word. I know that's a big word, taxonomy. Basically, it just means a classification system, right? So maybe you have air handler, then under air handler you have valve, and then valve you have temperature, et cetera, right? So one of the taxonomies, one of the tagging standards is haystack, and that model uses a key value structure where you've got a key, which is, hey, this is air handler. And then the value is air handler 101. And, this is cooling and valve and all that fun stuff. So with a taxonomy, with some sort of data standard that we talked about in tip two, along with applying that standard in an organized way, which is this taxonomy in tip three, you're going to find yourself in a really good position. Now, the good news is that on a lot of retrofit projects, especially on new construction projects, if you're getting ahead of things, you can implement these use cases, this data model, and the taxonomy all pretty low cost, pretty low effort. You just build it in to your actual processes when you're deploying a project. It's a little more difficult on retrofit. This is where a lot of customers start to get kind of surprised when they want to purchase an analytics package that costs X, and then the retrofit price is Y. It's like way above the cost of the analytics package because they didn't account for pneumatics and slow, 4,800 baud rate systems that can't even communicate and can't feed the data out. So when you're looking at all these things, just remember, make sure that we define the use case up front, Make sure after that we really are clear on our data, what data we want to pull in, how we're going to pull it in. And then 3, we really classify that data to make sure it's organized. If you do these 3 things, you will really see your analytics projects become much more effective, much easier, and over time, as you implement them into your processes within your business, it'll have a lower cost for actually implementing these kind of approaches. All right, if you have any questions about analytics, I'd love to answer them. Go to the comments below the video and let's talk analytics. Let's talk strategies. Let's have a conversation. Thanks a ton. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.